Pastor here?
No, I'm the property manager.
Oh, okay. Is there a pastor here that I can...
He's actually away visiting his mother in Ohio.
Oh, okay,
He'll be back on, I believe he's coming back next Monday.
Okay, are you Christian or...
I'm not necessarily, but I work for the church. I go to church every day, but, you know, I don't know. What's your concern and issue?
Oh, well, so I guess since you are, I guess first what I want to figure out is so you're not I guess you go to the church and you're just kind of hanging out a little bit, or...
Oh, as far as would you like to come and come to services and that kind of thing?
Oh, well, I guess I'm just curious,
or get kind of an idea of the philosophy of the church itself, or...
I guess my first question was because you mentioned that you're you go to the church, but you're not Christian.
No, well, you know, I would just say my wife and my kids and my grandkids are all members of the church, and I am not necessarily. I'm not a member of the church. I'm an employee of the church.
Oh, okay.
And so I mean,
I guess I was just curious, because my next question was going to be if you've ever read the scriptures and kind of checked it out and stuff like that.
I guess I would say that I did. You know, I wasn't raised as in any particular traditional church. I mean, except that my mom used to bring us to Unitarian churches and that kind of thing. But I did adopt a Lutheran church in my teens for maybe 3 or 4 years. So, and I was doing extensive Bible study and whatever. And I had culture. I guess you could say cultural immersion as I guess as an American or whatever. You get the holidays, the Christian holidays, or I mean, we always did Christmas and Easter and all that stuff. And my mom's side of the family was all Norwegians, and so they were all kind of affiliated with the Lutherans, around here. And I did adopt a Lutheran church for a little while, and I didn't really, I read, but I'm not really. I would just say that my personal religion is maybe what I call karma, and I consider that to be in line with the message of Jesus, maybe just the general path of the golden rule, if that makes any sense to you, the doing to others as you have them do to you kind of thing, walking that kind of, doing my best to walk that peaceful road,
I guess I was just curious if you let me point out a few things in the scripture to you,
no.
Just, oh, okay.
Nope. I don't care about it.
Oh, okay.
I really don't. I would say that I don't. My wife, I would say my wife is a biblical scholar, absolutely, and she, she's written many plays. She's written plays, liturgical plays, and I certainly have her to rely on if I do have questions about particular passages of scripture or that kind of thing. But I'm not. It's not my focus of walking through this world, and because it is such a collection of different sources over the last 2 millennia, or longer.
Yeah. I guess would you mind if I give you cards so you can give it to your wife about the scripture, or not you don't have to look at her or whatever, but
what is your background? What is the name of your sources of teaching, whatever religious teaching? Or?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess then this is kind of get into other things, but yeah. So I guess I was Christian, whatever, kind of for most of my life, in a sense, right? Your parents are Christian, and so you kind of adopt that kind of sort of identity, but until later on, you kind of are seeking what is it really and so one thing I guess for me is I see that God convicted me to actually look into the scriptures, and it actually says time and time again that we gotta keep His commandments and kind of obey Him. And what I also realize is that there's clear places in there where it writes out what the Christmas tree is, and saying that don't do this thing, writes out these crosses that people have and saying don't have these graven images and like all these things, and it's like, okay, like the churches, it's like there's all these different denominations, all these divisions. It's like they're leading people astray by telling them like you like by these holidays which are actually just from like pagan.
Oh, exactly. See that I would
Yeah.
I would even say if I had to describe myself, I'd be as carnal, and I do tie it back to pagan tradition as far as that's the way I look at it. That's the way I celebrate. I guess I would say I celebrate nature and creation as part of the same, like you would call, maybe you would call it pagan holiday. Maybe that's the way I look at it. I look at the times of years where, the solar calendars.
I think you might like. There is one passage that you might actually find really interesting. It's not like I'm not trying to like teach or anything, but would you mind if I actually read it? 'Cause, like, I think you'd actually. It's kind of explaining what you kind of like see. It's like I can just recite it.
I would just say I don't really have time right now because I have a lot of paperwork, letters, and other responses to a bunch of tenants around the building. My pop's birthday, so I gotta go party with him in a little while too, when we're getting food for him. So I'm a little bit under the time crunch, but yeah, I mean, I guess I would agree with you that I guess I don't know if I'm agreeing, but I'm just you point out those, for example, the use of icons and things like that. I don't understand how they can do that with what they say, what it says in the Bible about graven images, and then they go ahead and they do the same thing.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It sounds like it's hypocritical or it's a paradox, and
like,
that's why I don't. That's why I step back and I don't. I guess I don't. I just made a conscious decision not to be concerned about it. And as far as I guess I would say I don't have names for what I have a feelings. I have a feeling of something beyond. I would not call myself an atheist, you know what I'm saying? Although I don't believe necessarily in life after death. I'd like to think that there is, and I like to think that there is a spirit world that I can be a part of at some point later. But I'm not concerned about it. I'm not concerned about whether or not if my body is just ashes to ashes and that's all there is, that's fine. That's the way I accept it. Although I don't discount that there isn't another realm beyond our understanding. But I don't like to use a name for that kind of unknown. Out of respect for that unknown, I don't like to be so arrogant as a human to think that I can have a knowledge of that unseen. I feel that I let the mystery be. It's a mystery, and I don't think that it's measurable. So, anyway, what's your name?
Michael.
Michael Patrick.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you, Michael.
But would you mind if you don't have to read the card, but I would be happy to give at least maybe your wife could check it out with, because it has a lot of things that you've kind of even described with paganism and stuff like that. It's because the Bible it clearly writes those things out, and hopefully she's able to even read those things because you even address those same kind of you saw their Bible says this, but they're doing this exact same thing. It's the opposite. God says do this, but you're doing the exact opposite.
And I guess the other thing that is pretty common for people to scratch their head about is what is the Trinity?
Exactly. Yeah, that was actually one of the main things when I was really searching out. One day I was just what is this This is the main thing that people are oh, it's Trinity, that's what they're thinking. But then when I looked into it, just it's all this kind of philosophical try to all of that stuff, and it's just that's just I'm not gonna deal with that part. It's that's yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's people that spend their whole life trying to rationalize or come up with something, and I don't know where they get all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I should tell you that
yeah, you probably have to go.
I do,
Yeah.
but I should also just tell you that there's K through 12 school in operation right now, and you are not allowed to engage with any of the students. I'm not actually either. I can do that if I have to do any kind of maintenance kind of stuff, but even like walking in the other part of they're in the lower level. They do also have operation upstairs as well, but I just have to say you're welcome to be on the grounds outside, and you know, as long as you're not I mean, as long as you're just partaking of the peaceful environment or whatever. But as far as like our relationship with the school, it's not part of the church. They're just tenants, you know. But I just have to let you know that you are not allowed to engage with any of the students.
Yeah, that's
teachers.
okay.
Just to I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, hey Michael, I gotta let you go, but we'll see you around, and maybe you can talk to the pastor next week when he comes back.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.